Hi guys, in this video we're going to paint Squidward. Make sure you have your canvas out and ready. I've got a few brushes. I've got a big one, medium, and small. You're definitely going to want something kind of bigger sized for the large areas and the small ones for all the outlining. A jar or a cup of water for cleaning out your brushes and then storing them in when you're not using them. That way, when they lay out, you do not want to lay your brushes out with paint on them. They'll get dried out and crusty and it will ruin your brushes. I've got my plate with all the colors that I'm going to need on it. Got black, blue, turquoise, white, and yellow. So make sure you have that on hand. I'm going to start by mixing up the color for the eyes. No, I'm not. I lied. I'm going to do the background. Let's do the background, and it's going to be a very, very, very dark blue. So on our plate, we are going to mix a nice scoop of black into quite a bit of blue. Make a nice dark kind of midnight blue. And then I'm just going to take a small scoop of white and stir that in as well. I might even add 2 scoops. It will dry darker on my canvas. Acrylic paint always dries a little bit darker, so the color will change. So a little bit more white. And you can see better my color is this dark, nice blue color. Just make sure you mix up enough that's gonna fill in the background space. I've got a bigger canvas, so I need a little bit more than y'all. And it's gonna be the space in here and the space in here. So just go ahead and start painting that in. Take your time. I'm gonna switch to a bigger brush, mostly because the small brush leaves so many brush strokes. So with my bigger brush, I'm just gonna go in, take my time, nice and close to those edges as best as I can. If you want to do the smaller brush around the edges, that's probably a good idea. And this is going to naturally be a little streaky just because it's such a dark color. It's hard to get good coverage on a white canvas. So feel free to do a second coat when the first coat is dry, just so that your paint has got nice, smooth, even coverage. Just gonna take my time around this edge. That's gonna dry dark and weird, so I'm gonna get that covered. I don't want it to show through where I showed you. Easel's kind of in the way down here. I'm just kind of trying to smooth out brush strokes just to try to minimize the appearance. Just long stroke, light-handed works pretty well to just kind of cover up strokes. I'm gonna come back here, get this side finished up. So if you do want a second coat, that's perfectly fine. I know it'll take just a few seconds just to go back with another coat. Definitely make sure it's fully dry. If it's still kind of sticky, it's gonna pull that first layer off and you're gonna have a mess. I'll just leave mine be for now. I can, if I decide to, I'll put another coat on at the end before I outline. Next I'm gonna do the eyes. And we're gonna make a very light yellow, very, very light yellow for inside of the eye. So for that, I'm just gonna take a nice scoop of white, quite a bit, because I need enough to fill in all that space. And I'm just gonna start adding a little bit of yellow at a time, because it's just very, very pale. Just kind of dripping off the side of my plate there. So once I put it on, you'll see better probably how light it is. It's so light. Let me get closer. It's just a little bit tinted yellow, almost white still. I'm just trying to get those extra off. So once it's on, you can see that it is yellow compared to the white. And just take your time, get these all filled in. Be careful around your blue edge if it's still wet. Mine is probably very wet still. I don't want to drag that wet blue paint into my yellow. So just be careful or let it dry. I'm gonna just move on to this side, give that a little bit more time. So I've got his eyes filled in. Next I'm going to do his head, his nose, and the face. So I'm going to get my brush cleaned out. And also, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to recommend that you take a Sharpie or any kind of dark colored permanent marker. You could probably also use a crayon. But anywhere where we have like little lines that are gonna be covered, so here and here, because this whole bottom is gonna be filled in. Easily we can go around the nose, but I wanna be able to paint over top of the mouth. So I'm going to just give that a quick little outline. That way it will show through when we paint it. It will be outlined later in black, so it will be covered in the end. So I just had a little boo-boo there. I can fix that when I do my outline, when I cover it with black paint at the end. So I'm gonna mix up the shade, and it's kind of like a turquoisey bluish color. And I'm going to start using turquoise. So I'll just put my thumb in the yellow. I'm going to take a big scoop of blue and just start stirring it in to my turquoise. So we need quite a bit of this, so I'm going to double the amount just because I have a lot more area to fill than you. So more blue and then more turquoise, just to make sure I won't run out. I don't want to have to make the color again because it'll be really hard to match. Okay, so I'm gonna take some of that because the eyelids are going to be darker, and I want to save this to the side somewhere just so that I have some of the same color to put on the eyelids. And that's probably way more than enough, but just reserve that for later. And then what we have mixed up here, we're gonna take a nice big scoop of it and stir it in with a lot of white. And this is gonna be the color of, oops, I got a little more turquoise in there. That's okay. So this is the color. I feel like it needs to be a little dingier, because Squidward is kind of got a dinginess to him. I'm gonna take just a little bit of black, maybe less than that. I'm gonna try just a little at a time. I'm gonna stir that in, just to kind of tone the brightness down. It's still very much so turquoise. Just do a little bit of black. You can always add more in. It's very difficult to try to alter it later when you've got so much black in. So I feel like that's a good Squidward color. And I'll start on his head. And I'm just gonna fill in around the eyelids. A bigger brush is probably better. Got a little messy, that's okay. So I'm gonna just get around the outside edges of the eyelids. I'm gonna go in and use a bigger brush just to fill in the majority of the space, because like I said earlier, a bigger brush leaves less marks on the canvas. As you can see, this is quite streaky. So bigger brush it is. I'm gonna get all that darker blue color clean out. And just go in and get them all filled in. This goes a lot quicker too. So just take your time, get a nice even coat of paint on. Nice long strokes, very light-handed, and you could kind of smooth out some of those brush marks. And if you want to do another coat, feel free. I'm just going to do the one just to keep the video a reasonable length. Between coats, definitely let it dry completely. You don't want to paint while it's still tacky, because it will pull that first layer off and it'll just be a mess. And now I'm going to come down here. And, oh shoot, we probably should mark the nose line, just because this whole thing gets painted the same color. So if you haven't already, mark the nose line. And then fill in the whole bottom part. So nice thin paint, especially over top of those Sharpies. You want to be able to see them through your paint so we can find them later when we do our outlining. When it dries, it does become a little easier to see through the paint to be able to find those lines. Okay, I've got him all filled in. I'm gonna go back up here and we're gonna do the eyelids. I'm gonna show you how to make that color. So we're gonna use the color we saved earlier. I still have quite a bit over here, but I set some aside when we were making the lighter color. We are gonna add some white, just not as much as we did to the lighter color that his head and face is. So you're gonna stir in a little bit of white. I'm just taking it easy, doing a little at a time so I can adjust as needed. I'm gonna take a little bit more white. So it's getting lighter. We just don't want it to be as light as this was the color before. Obviously, I'm much darker. And we did add a little black to our other color, so we're gonna do the same to this. And just a little, just start with just the tiniest bit. You can always add in more. Just gonna stir in a little bit of that black just to kind of tone it down a little. I could probably do just a little bit more. Maybe that was too much, we shall see. Nope, that seems good. It still looks turquoise, that's ideal. We still wanted to have that nice bluish green hue to it. So make sure you just get it all stirred in nice and even. So to compare the two colors, I've got this color here that was the head and face. Beside it is definitely darker. And this is the eyelid color. I'm gonna have you again with the Sharpie. I don't wanna lose these lines. So just go ahead and just draw those on with your dark marker or crayon or whatever you have. And just get these eyelids filled in. I'm gonna switch to a bigger brush. I'm just kind of wiping my paint off so I'm not wasting it. With a bigger brush, just to help with brush strokes and take a little less time. My big brush and that color we just made. Just come in and get your eyelids filled in. They do get outlined later, so your edges can get cleaned up then if you get a little wobbly. Just nice thin paint. Again, if you want to do a second coat to make sure you have nice, good, even coverage, perfectly fine. Again, just make sure you wait in between coats so that it doesn't get all weird and gooey on you. Smoothing out my brush strokes as best as I can. Do the same over here. Nice thin even coat. All right, so lastly, we're gonna fill in the little eye pupil-y things as far as just getting everything covered. I'm just gonna make a dark gray color. I'm gonna use my medium brush to mix, and in dark gray, I'm gonna take some white. It's got a little blue, that's okay. Ooh, that's a lot of blue, dang it. I'm gonna try to clean that out. I'm gonna take some black in with my white, and it's gonna be pretty dark. Hopefully that blue doesn't show through. It's very little, so I want this to be darker than that. It's gonna be like a very dark charcoaly color. So I'm gonna stir in quite a bit more black. Get my hand out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got this nice dark charcoaly color. I'm also gonna add just a little bit of yellow to this, I think. Before you do it, let me confirm. Yeah, just stir in a little bit of yellow. Doesn't take a lot, and this just kind of gives it, brightens it up just a little. Can barely even see the yellow. And I'm gonna fill in these pupil, like rectangle shapes, with that gray color. And the same for the other one. Again, this does get outlined, so any little weird wonky edges you can clean up with the outline. All right, so next, my last step is just to go around and put a nice dark black outline around everything. This does take a little time and some patience. If you want to go back in and do a second coat on anything, do it before you do your outline. Mine definitely could use another coat, but I'm just gonna keep going just for the sake of the video. You don't need to sit here and watch me paint for 2 hours. I'm gonna use my small brush and some black paint. I like to add a little bit of water into the paint. So I just dip my brush in the water and then just stir it right into the paint. It's just a little bit at a time. You can always like make a little bit more later if you need. And this just helps the flow of the paint. Makes outlining a little easier. I'll just start, well, I want to be able to rest my hand, so I'm going to just blow it dry quick just to make sure I don't put my arm, hand, or whatever in wet paint. That should be good. I'll just start right here in between the, whatever they are, eyelids. I'll come up and around. I just try to be mindful of where I'm going to want to rest my hand. So I want to work in a way where I'm not going to have to want to lay my hand down in wet paint. And if you do end up putting some paint down and you're like, oh no, my hand's gonna lay in it, just let it dry. Or just move over to something else and go back to that spot and work on it later when it has had a chance to dry. I'm covering those lines that we Sharpied, getting those put back in. Side of the head here. Eyes. While you work, feel free to rotate the canvas around. Just position it whatever works for you. Sometimes it's easier if you flip it and you can get to a different spot. I like to personally put it on my lap while I do outlining. I can't do that right now just because I have to have it up here so you guys can see what I'm doing. But that is my preferred method. guess I can do, I'll do the mouth, and then I can get the nose. Just mixing up a little bit more water into my paint. I'm running out of that little pile I made. It's gonna get a little tricky. I'm gonna do up here until I can't rest my hand anymore. I'll start over here with this. I'll get this, and then I think I can flip it on its side. We'll see. You don't need to be following the same order as me. You can do whatever works easiest for you. guess I should have done that first. I'll just do it like this. Now, almost done. Just have the side of his face and the other half of his mouth. Here we go. And there he is, all finished. I'm not gonna sign my name just because I don't want my name on the middle of his face, but if you desire to do that, that's perfectly fine. It is your painting. When you are finished, if you please take pictures and post to my Facebook page, Willy-Nilly. I have a pinned post right at the top so you can find it easily. Just upload your photos there. I love seeing them. While you're there, check out everybody else's too. That's pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.